did you get in the water, and what was that like not being a swimmer?
It was scary.
Yeah. Okay.
But there was a whale shark in the water, and if
Right.
I was going to have an opportunity to share the same physical space as this amazing creature, you had the split second of making that decision when it was my turn to go or not. And I don't know if it's one of the most memorable experiences in my life. It's like one of those things where you can still close your eyes, right? And still picture exactly what that felt like. And being next to a whale shark is just, they're so big
So
and
big.
so majestic.
Beautiful.
And it was just an incredible experience. And I'm so grateful to have done that.
Hey folks, that voice you just heard was Dr. Claire Lannoye-Hall, and this is Dragonfly Conversations. Claire is the VP of Education at the Detroit Zoo and a Project Dragonfly Global Field Program graduate. We discussed the Detroit Zoo's new and revolutionary 7-acre interactive discovery space and using 3D printers to bring wildlife conservation issues to life in local classrooms. We talk about zoos swapping passive signs for real conversations with visitors, partnering with remote communities in the Amazon, and the universal struggle of balancing a career, a PhD, and a family during chaotic times. Let's get into it. All right. So, Claire, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. It's been so long that we've known each other. We've been working in the Dragonfly circles for a while, and now you are the Vice President of Education at the Detroit Zoo. So, for people listening in, I mean, what is a day in the life? Like, what kind of typical things are you dealing with in that kind of role?
So, funny that you ask. Every evening on my way home, I call my parents to make sure, that they've made good decisions throughout the course of the day. And my mom always asks, like, what did your day look like? And I'm like, meetings. I went to like 15 different meetings today. And at some
Mhm.
point in the last few months, she stopped asking because she knows that's all I do now is go to the meetings. Um, it has been a larger shift than the director role that I was in previously. The director role was really about the operations of the team, right? And the day-to-day logistics and making sure that things were happening and being there to support the team when there was bumps in the road. And this role is I'm trying to extract myself out of that day-to-day operation and more into the strategic thinking about where we need to be heading. Um, it's been a little bit of a struggle for me. It's a huge shift in how I think about the world, and it's hard sometimes because at the end of the day, you don't have a whole bunch of check boxes on the end of your to-do list where I used to have that with the more operational role. So it's exciting, but it's a much larger shift than I think I originally anticipated, which going on a year, almost exactly
Right.
of that shift. So
Yeah, it's still relatively new, but I imagine there's a lot of trust that you have to feel and like really embrace with your team because you, like you said, you ideally you would be not in the dailies of every single thing if you can avoid it and set some of the bigger decisions and ideas moving forward, or at least that's what I imagine. Is that kind of where you want
yeah,
to get to?
yeah. And transparently, I have an amazing team and they have
Yeah.
really helped along this whole path. And they are also helping me push out of the day to day and just helping me have the information that I need when I need it. Um, it has also been really interesting to know what level of information you need at like an executive from your team. All those years that I tried to prepare these reports that were just like way over detailed and had way too much stuff. And you don't always need that level of detail to help with the decision making process. So looking at it from that lens has also been really kind of an interesting shift as to what I actually need in order to move ahead and make the decisions that we need to on behalf of the organization and all
So
the guests.
such that you can give an example to make this real. Is there
Yeah.
something you've been able to either let go or something you're like, I really need to embrace this particular project and move it forward?
Um, I have been letting go. So we just opened a new 7-acre section of the zoo. It's been in the planning phases for at least 8 years, I think longer than that. So it's been a long time in coming. And I was in the planning all of that phase, like right up until we got before the opening, and I had to let go how my team was actually going to operationalize it. And they did a phenomenal job. I mean, they got together, they looked at how we needed to be in the space, how people were using the space. They've been making adaptations on a daily basis as to what that looks like. And it's because they're phenomenal professionals who know how to do their job, which is why they're part of the team. But
Yeah.
stepping back from that and not being in that room every morning when they're debriefing or talking with the teams at the end of the day, um, I have to like physically remind myself to like go find something else to do during those periods of time to let them be successful in making that space as amazing as it is. So that's one of the most recent ones.
What is the 7 acre exhibit? Like, what is it about?
Kevin, everything you can imagine. It redid a section of the zoo that used to be a large ungulate yard. So we had like guanacos in there at one point. There was birds in there at one point. It stretches all the way down past where our anteater exhibit was and all the way down to our historic barn. So huge space. And I don't think people realized how much was in there until now they've been in it redone. So now we have a stingray and bamboo shark experience where you can go in and touch and feed them. That's a whole new building. We have a canopy trail that is elevated, that is, you can go up, go over the bridge. It's kind of an adventure experience. There's tree top crossing, which is right next to it, which is another elevated experience with these high adventure tunnels. It also has ADA accessible slides, climbing ropes. There's a whole section for, it's called Little Sprouts for toddlers. So it's fenced in to make sure our youngest guests can be safe. It's all based on life cycles in there. So there's like a tadpole and the pour and play soft surface, and then there's the frog that they can go on next to it. There's the caterpillar and the butterfly. So thinking about how creatures grow up, right, which is very appropriate for that younger audience. A whole census trail. It's got musical instruments on one side. It's got an amazing light wall that shows like light energy coming through translucent panels and how you can shift different colors. There's a Mason Gathering Plaza that has custom tile mosaic artwork done by a local artist that curves around and just makes a really cool entry point to the space. And I know you're thinking like, how much more could there be? We're only halfway through it.
Okay.
We're still finishing up the prairie dogs and the burrowing owls, amazing new habitats. Prairie dogs we've had before, burrowing owls is a new species. Anteaters got a facelift. We have bush dogs. They'll be out soon. They had pups on Mother's Day, so they didn't like make it quite in time to debut when the space opened. New restrooms, nursing station, 3 spaces specifically like family individual restrooms, one with a universal changing table. New restaurant, hadn't tried it yet. Heard it's amazing. It's mostly snacks. Goat encounter yard, never had that before. So guests
Goats?
can go in,
Okay.
pet, brush the goats.
Okay.
We have alpacas, never had those before. The donkeys have a new place. We have 4 species breeds, 4 breeds of chickens, not species.
Okay.
Amazing outdoor classroom that has all these different ways demonstrated of growing vegetables to help people think
Oh,
about how
wow.
to grow produce in their own yards. And this is wild, but one of the most exciting things is our farmers market. It's got plastic fruits and vegetables, all Michigan crops. So like each one is weighed out to actually weigh, like there's a cucumber and it weighs as much as a cucumber weighs, but it's just like this HDP plastic shape that looks like a cucumber,
Okay.
bunch of different things. You can put it on the vine. So you can put the cucumber on the vine, you can pick it up and put it in your bucket. You can go over and measure it and weigh it against other produce. You can put it in the back of the truck. You can take it to the farmer's stand and put it out. So we've got like, I don't know, 100 loose pieces of produce out there and all these different things that you can do with them. And like, I feel bad for parents because I've been there, right? Young kids
Oh,
can't get them
they're
to
never
leave.
leaving.
Yeah.
Never leaving.
There's just like these children sobbing on their way out of like the
Yeah.
farmer's market. It's like, so
That's
huge
crazy. Okay.
project.
All right. So many awesome things about that. I can see why your team is like, oh my goodness, we're going to
Yes.
develop curriculum for the next like decade, and we're
Yes.
going to have meetings and figure out how to best utilize this space. And the
Yeah.
other thing I was thinking is where I live near Dayton, Ohio, the Boonshoft Nature
Mm.
Museum is around here. And when my kids were younger, we would go there and they have some animals and they have some like play structures, indoor kind of things. But my kids loved this like fake pizza plate parlor kind of thing. And it was like little plastic pizza pieces and you put them in the oven and you take them out, there's Velcro and they like put them on plates. And they were transfixed for that thing for hours and days and weeks. So
So on those
farmers
lines,
market, so
when
cool.
we were designing this space, there's all these loose part play.
Yeah.
We kept getting pushback, like, well, how are the kids going to know what to do with it? I think you need to put up instructions for the kids on like how to use the space. And we're like, well, let's try it without. And if we need instructions, like in a month, we'll come back and put them up. These kids don't need instructions. I mean, they've got like 8 different scenarios of like this person's a farmer and he's harvesting his yams, and like this person's at the market and he's selling something. I mean, it's just like kids don't need instructions on how to play. They're out there living
Okay.
their
I
best life.
totally want to
Yeah.
Cirrus. I mean,
Well,
the other
well,
things are cool too. The goat petting. I love
yeah,
goats. And yeah, you mentioned a lot of very
a
cool,
lot.
adventurous things in this 7 acres. Um, okay, so you have this amazing opportunity for education, and these cool things are going to be happening. Your team is like handling brainstorming, working on it. Like, what has that opened up for you? Like, what's next for Claire right now on your list to think about moving things forward?
This has really propelled us into something that I think we might be a little bit behind a lot of our other zoo and aquarium, even museum partners, is the amount of time our education department is spending out in the zoo with our guests. We know that the guests who come to zoos and aquariums are predisposed to wanting to take action. Sometimes they just need to know what that action is, and they need an entry point. And the fact that our team hasn't been out and engaging with people more one-on-one, I think is a miss. And this space is allowing us to explore that in a smaller section than the whole 125 acres of the zoo. So it feels more manageable and it's easier to measure to see what type of impact we're having. So I am hoping that this space is going to propel us into making more of a meaningful difference for our guests. We have volunteers who we train, and it's also helping us think about how we're training the volunteers, and the messaging that we want them to pass on and how we want them to engage with people, which is a whole challenge in itself because many of our volunteers come from long and very successful careers in the education, library sciences fields, things like that, and they've had a lot of experience doing things in a certain way, and trying to shift that sometimes can be challenging. But yeah, I'm hopeful that this opens up the door to having more of our team out on a daily basis where we know we can potentially make impact with people who want to be part of the solution of all those global challenges that we're facing as a field.
Yeah, I think with volunteers and education at zoos and botanical gardens in general, like you show up and I've had this happen and I mean, I don't mean to sound wrong, but like I have a PhD in ecology and I've studied these things a lot and I've had volunteers. I won't say what zoo I was at, but it's kind of accost me a little bit and be like start showing me a talent or some biofact or something and start trying to tell me things about it and my family, right? And so I think there is an art to engagement and I think people really do crave real engagement, but like authentic engagement with the people that are working there that know these animals, like they know the name and the stories behind the exhibits, and the signage and such. So I feel like that's worth a lot, or they know how to like connect it to everyday conservation actions people can make, like you were kind of, I think, starting to get into there. Um,
Yeah, spot on. I mean, there's so much research that's been done. And like some of these concepts that we're trying to convey to guests are so complex and they keep calling all these techniques called like bridging, right? So you start someplace and you're having a conversation and you know where a person is, and then you need to be able to bridge them to where you would like them to go with like as far as taking action or thinking about something. Those are things that can be accomplished on a sign. And I think as a field, we've relied a lot on passive sign reading to communicate our mission and why we do the things that we do and the conservation work that we do. And in doing so, we're missing a lot of those really meaningful opportunities to engage with people on a more authentic and relevant basis. It is very hard to write a sign that will resonate with 1.3 million people, but you can go out there and have conversations that where you're building connections, and it's just much more dynamic. And I think there's just so much potential for what that looks like in the field and things that we can be sharing. So I'm hoping that my team can push us in that direction.
cool. And 1.3 million, is that how many visitors are coming through a
Yeah.
year? Or is that,
I think last year we saw just under 1.2. We're hoping with the
Mhm.
opening of Earth Discovery Trails that it'll be above 1.3, but we are also contending with some really wicked construction issues around the zoo on the major expressways. So we'll see. We're keeping our fingers crossed.
Gotcha. All right, so I want to like kind of go through a little bit more about your background. I mean, you've been with Detroit Zoo for I think like how long's it
Long
been?
time.
Okay, what? All right. Long, long time. And so like how did you and when did you decide you wanted to get into conservation and nature and education? Like did that start at a very young age or was that later in life?
So I got here by accident. The original intention was to be a school teacher. So I went to Eastern Michigan University right after high school to get my teaching certificate. During the summers while I was at EMU getting my undergrad, I started working at the zoo as a summer camp counselor. And when I graduated with my teaching certificate, there was no teaching jobs in Michigan, which is the complete opposite reality that we are living in right now.
Wow, yeah.
Jobs that post thousands of people would apply for them. And I got a part-time job at the zoo. Like, this is cool. I can wait this out and stay here. The part-time turned into a full-time. Very shortly after I got my full-time gig, I got involved in the conservation work that we do down in the Amazon rainforest. And I guess you could say the rest is history because it has
Hmm.
been a couple decades. And I'm still here. So I totally got here by accident. I was intended to be in the classroom.
Wow, who knew that a teacher not many jobs briefly would, and then I guess that conservation, so the connection down in the Amazon or wherever you were. So maybe you can share a little bit about that because it sounds like that was pretty formative to keeping your spark going.
Yeah, it was life-changing. And I'm not using that just as something to say. It truly was. Um, to travel to some place that I could have only imagined what it looked and felt like through books and movies previously, to be in that space, to have a connection, not only with the space itself, but the people who call that area home, and see how resourceful they are with where they're living and how much they care about the space, because this is generations of families growing up and living in very rural, remote areas of the rainforest, and how deeply they are connected was just incredibly powerful. And that first trip down was never intended to be the start of something that has now gone on for a super long time. The zoo brought me down because they needed help organizing the paperwork on the other side, but they wanted me to see what the program looked like in action before I took on that role. And as fate had it, the person who was overseeing it left very shortly after that trip, and I inherited it. Um, so when we go down, we deliver school supplies to right now around 50 different communities that are on the Amazon and Napo rivers. And the access to school
Where
supplies
is
is a
that? Like what
um
what what city and country are you in?
so we're
On
in
the earth?
Peru, outside of Iquitos, Peru, which is in the northeastern section, so the Amazon rainforest section of Peru. I hear Peru has like a whole bunch of different ecosystems, none of which I have been to, despite like literally dozens of trips down there. So someday I will see the mountains and the deserts and all the other things that Peru has, the coastlines. Um, but this is like heart of rainforest opportunity to protect primary growth rainforest that has not yet been impacted by mining, agriculture, forestry, all these other things that are threatening those ecosystems. And there's a tourist group down there, a tourism group called Explore on the Lodges. And when they first started more than 60 years ago, they recognized the fact that their success is banked on continuing to have a rainforest, right? So they've been super invested in protecting large areas of rainforest. And they did this by starting a nonprofit called CONAPAC, which I could tell you the whole Spanish word for the acronym, but I will inevitably mispronounce part of it or mess up a word in there. So we'll stick with CONAPAC. CONAPAC was formed to buy these big sections of rainforest directly around the lodges, but it has become its own entity, its own nonprofit that is doing so much good work in the area. So they started with delivering of school supplies to just the communities around the lodges, recognizing that when individuals have access to education, basic literacy, math skills, that they can make more informed decisions. And when government and outside entities come in and start asking for resource usage or to buy and take those things, that they can make informed decisions about how much they're selling, at what cost, at what impact to the ecosystem. And those school supplies are a critical part of that because they're expensive. And in order to buy the school supplies, they would otherwise be cutting down trees and selling them to get the money for it. Plus, just the huge difficulties in getting. There are no roads out here, thankfully. That's why the rainforest is still intact. They're on boats for like hours to get back to some place that would sell the items that they needed. So the school supplies became a lifeline to protecting these areas of the rainforest and helping making sure that the individuals living in the communities could continue to adapt as the global world continued to evolve very rapidly around them. It's really interesting. Just like one piece of that whole technology thing is like they never had landlines and phones just because of the infrastructure that you would need to get out to the communities. But now, like,
Right.
everybody in the community has a cell phone. So they have global
Yeah.
connection, right? But like
Yeah.
you walk in, like we're taking pictures of handing out school supplies. They're taking pictures of us. They're posting them on like WhatsApp chats. Like even before we get back to the
Yeah.
lodges at the end of the day of like distributing school supplies, there's like pictures of us all over this WhatsApp chat of it's just it's weird how technology works and how fast it
It
evolves and
is.
just skipping over it in some sections.
It is such an amazing time, and it's one of those things. It's you see technology kind of leapfrogging, like you're saying, and it opens opportunities and it opens possibilities. It's also like brings in some things that
Yeah.
maybe are not so great. And obviously, the entire world at this point is dealing with screen addiction, for example. Um, but in any case, I love the idea of, this group getting these school supplies out there and you getting exposed to that. It sounds like relatively early in your career. And my guess is that that kind of lit a fire for you of educational accessibility, equity in education and conservation, like how everything's kind of connected. So have you taken those experiences and like, has it kind of stayed with you through your time at the Detroit Zoo?
Definitely. And I also want to say that it has helped me grow,
Hmm.
learning the hard way. I don't think I had maybe the mentorship I needed in those moments to help me expedite that process. Instead, I had to learn it all the hard way as we moved along. Um, Very transparently, when I first started going down, I went in with this mindset of like, look at all these amazing things that we're doing for people, right? Like we're giving them these things, and it felt good to give things. And it does feel good to give things, but I didn't have that full picture about like how important the communities were in that whole process. So like when I was sharing with you just a few moments ago about um the critical role that individuals have in protecting their ecosystems, um, when I first started going down, many decades ago. It was more me approaching it with a deficit model, right? That we were there to fill in some sort of a gap that individuals living in these rural, remote areas might have. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to have learned and grown through that and realized this is not a deficit model. This is a partnership and how much we all have to learn from each other and how much we have more in common than I think people allow themselves to realize. We have more in common than we do different, regardless of where we're living and how our lives are, our daily lives are. But that was a huge journey for me, and it does carry over into my day to day here at the zoo too. Thinking about the different groups that have access to come to the zoo versus those who don't, and how we're reaching those who don't walk through the gates, how we're out in the community, how we are inviting in groups, and not just one offs, but building long relationships so they know that there's a level of trust there. Um, and they can count on us to continue showing up and being the resources they need. Metro Detroit is incredibly inequitable as far as like social income and access to resources. And we've been able to, fortunately, pivot a lot of resources to some of the areas of our community that don't have equitable access and support in a variety of different capacities. And I'm very grateful for the funding that we have available to help us do that and just the opportunity to engage across the entire Metro Detroit region.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, going to the zoo is not cheap. For if you have a family and you're trying to go. So I don't know if Detroit does it there. You're kind of alluding to programs that make this so that different school groups can come, even if they don't have an allocated a school trip fund from their PTO or their administration, and maybe there's some other things too with like free days for just families or things. Is that the case
Yeah,
with Detroit?
exactly.
Yeah.
We have an endowment for like Day at the Zoo. So
Mhm.
teachers can apply, and if they're a Title I school or if they have a certain number of free and reduced lunch students in that district, we'll bring them out. We'll pay the transportation, we'll waive the admission fees, we'll provide them an education program. We provide free after school programming throughout the Tri-County area. So the three counties that surround the zoo, we were regularly doing programming out in their after schools. After schools are traditionally an audience that are, again, under-resourced. The kids who are in these programs have parents who are working multiple jobs or unconventional hours and need a little bit of extra support. And having a productive after-school environment is key to that. And infusing science into that is just like an extra bonus. Um,
Are the kids coming to you guys or are you going
we're
to the
going to them.
schools? Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
eliminating the transportation. Transportation is such a huge thing in our area.
Yeah.
We don't have public transportation because we're the motor city. And it's just it's a huge disadvantage to equitable access to
So
any of
did
the cultural resources.
when you go off site, do you bring animals, like, ambassador animals with you, or is that not allowed? And you bring other things like biofacts and pictures, or other ways you can engage with the kids?
Fair question. We are one of the few zoos that does not have any traveling animal ambassadors. We consider animal ambassadors to be like our goats that you can go in and interact with, the stingrays, the giraffes that you can feed, but we do not travel with any animals. So the curriculum that we are bringing in is based on nature and ecosystems and materials that we think the kids will find really compelling. Sometimes we do use biofacts like you were alluding to with like the claws and other animals. We've also had huge success. We bought a 3D printer. I think now we have three of them. I'm not really sure. The team just keeps asking for more 3D printing stuff, but the things that they are making is incredible. So they are making teaching tools that they're taking into classrooms that are just like things I never would have thought of. They're in the process of printing an entire rhino um, skeleton as part of our wildlife forensics program, which helps older kids, this is for high school students, think
Wow.
about different ways that animals are like poached and other things. They couldn't buy one. It was too expensive. So they're just, I keep getting invoices for 3D print filament, but I mean, like all the kids that are going to benefit from this. So the
Yeah,
team is
no, I mean, if you
creative.
want to experience the size, right, of an
Yes.
animal that is nearly extinct or is down to critical levels of less than 10,000 or less than a few thousand for some of the rhino species. So, yeah, having an actual physical thing that kids can like be like, oh, wow, and then they probably associate that with like dinosaur bones and things, but like, no, this is a living species that is still on our planet, just barely, right? Like, that is super cool. I love that. And use of a 3D printer, very, very clever. Yeah.
We're leveraging it for all
Cool.
it's worth. I don't know what that is with kids. I mean, you must have experienced this phenomenon too. Every time they see like a skull, they're like, that must be a dinosaur, right? That's just like the instant go-to. It must be a dinosaur if it's a skull. Because living things certainly don't have skeletons.
Right, but you can learn so much from a skeleton, right? Like from a skull
Yeah.
as well. When you
Yeah.
look at elephant, like it's so interesting, this, big hole in the middle that kind of makes it look like a cyclops, and lots of things just originate, even like where the eye sockets are. We would always talk about, predator versus prey and eyes on the side versus in the front.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lesson. I used to be connect with a educator at the Bronx Zoo who he would say like I could teach a whole class with a feather in my hand,
Yeah.
right? And the point is, like, it was a little bit of a brag, but like and he was a very engaging instructor, but like the point is that it doesn't take much to like inspire people, kids and adults, right? And
Yeah.
especially like if you get them thinking, like, what do you see? What do you see with this feather? What do you see with this skull? Um, so I think, and they can lead to all sorts of conversations, and you don't know which way it's going to go exactly.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that earlier part of the conversation too, right? Is when you bring out that thing that gets someone curious, right? And start asking questions, they're going to keep thinking about it after the visit. And if you can get people to think about things long after you've had the opportunity to interact with them, that's a huge win because that just continues that sense of curiosity. They just want to keep finding out more. So yeah, anything that you can do to open up those windows, past the screens, get off the screens and start
Right.
wondering about the world, I think that's a huge win.
Right. Awesome. So cool. So you also are a Project Dragonfly graduate of the Global Field Program, and you also have a PhD. You also have a family. Like, so I just want to like touch on these other areas of your life. You've been a very, very busy person. I would just put it at that. But maybe a little bit like just a quick encapsulation of what your Global Field Program experience was like. And then a little bit on how you managed the PhD with a family too and a full-time job, I believe. You did it all.
Yeah. I will say I never would have joined the Global Field Program if it hadn't been for those trips to Peru because it pushed me so far out of my comfort zone. And then when the master's program came up, I'm like, I can do this. I've been to Peru, I've
Nice.
navigated all this international travel. I can do this program. Um, it still stretched me way beyond my comfort zone in many ways. My very first trip was down to Baja. Um, I'm an adult who can't swim. I guess I just missed that part of like growing up in childhood of like learning how to swim. And there's some swimming aspects to that, right? You're in a wetsuit and you're out
Sure.
there and you're in the sea. And I just pushed myself so much beyond my limits with that program and learned so much, not just about like the facts and the ecology and all of that stuff and the book stuff, but about myself. It built this amazing network of people that I'm still in contact with, obviously.
Mhm.
um, I'm just so grateful for the fact that I took a chance on myself and wanted to pursue that. Um,
Did you get in the water and what was that like not being a swimmer?
it was scary.
Yeah. Okay.
But there was a whale shark in the water, and if
Right.
I was going to have an opportunity to share the same physical space as this amazing creature, I just, you had the split second of making that decision when it was my turn to go or not. And I went in with a friend, who I just met on the trip, but whom I trusted that if something were to go south, they were going to make sure that I got back out of the water. And I'm so grateful for them because, yeah, it made it all happen. And I don't know if it's one of the most memorable experiences in my life. It's like one of those things where you can still close your eyes, right? And still picture exactly what that felt like. And being next to a whale shark is just, they're so big
So
and
big,
so
so
majestic.
beautiful.
And it was just an incredible experience. And I'm so grateful to have done that.
Wow, I'm like getting chills as you're talking about all that. That's so great. We're so lucky to have that experience. And anyone listening to this, that's like definitely put this on your bucket list for sure, the whale sharks. All right, so Baja,
Yeah.
whale sharks, swimming and
Yep.
getting in the water. And then you also went to, I guess, Peru, Amazon, right? Or I assume.
No,
Or
my
no.
my other two trips were Belize. I was actually supposed
Mhm.
to go to Thailand, and it was actually the year that there was a lot of political unrest happening in Thailand, very
Mhm.
opposite of where we are today. And the university, rightly so, made the decision that this was not the place to be sending grad students. Grateful
Mhm.
for their decision making because I was going to go anyway because I really, really wanted to. Ended up in
The
Belize.
risk-taking side of Claire, I'm
Yeah,
definitely
starts to
seeing now.
show.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing snorkeling experiences there. That Baja trip built me up into the comfort level of being able to do snorkeling. It was amazing. Visiting the zoo that was down there, visiting the manatees, all of it was just absolutely incredible. Again, another network formed of more incredible colleagues across the field in a bunch of different realms. And then my last trip was to Trinidad, which is not one of the opportunities that I think is on the Earth expeditions,
No. Yeah,
but
no more.
amazing.
But yeah.
Scarlet and gold macaws out in the swamp, um, tagging leatherback sea turtles that came up on the beach. Again, all these experiences that I could have never imagined in my life that I'd be participating in, and all these doors were opened because Michigan had too many teachers.
Yes. Yeah. Very unique path that you took there. So,
Yeah.
okay. So what's really cool is you have these great experiences and you're getting more comfortable traveling and getting in the water, doing all these amazing things. And then you helped us create this program, the AIP program at Detroit Zoo. And we recently had our first cohort of graduates. So very exciting. Congratulations to you and the entire team. But what's it been like for you now seeing other graduate students in the program, but they're coming to your institution, the Detroit Zoo, and they're from Detroit in the region? Like, what's that been like for you?
It's amazing. One, I didn't realize how many Project Dragonfly graduates were working with me within even just the Detroit Zoo colleagues. And that came out once we started moving forward with the EIP program here, was all these people offering to help support, whatever that looked like, whether it was helping to support with in-person days, supporting curriculum development, supporting opportunities for students, even just providing mentorship. That was really cool to see how strong that network remains to be. And yeah, it was a really cool full circle moment to finally get AIP to the zoo. We had tried a couple times previously. We had some leadership changes within the organization, and all of a sudden, all the stars aligned, and it was happening. It truly felt like that after so many years of wanting and hoping. Um, I mean, obviously, this program had such a huge impact, not only on me, but like anybody who'd been through the grad program was deeply moved by their experience. And again, beyond just the book work, um, beyond the coursework, but the whole experience of working together towards better, I don't know, better solutions, action in the world. I mean, it's just such a powerful program to be able to bring that to the Metro Detroit region and make it more accessible, especially in a time when there's a little bit more reluctance, I think, on a lot of people's part to go into higher education because it's not necessarily valued as much as it had been previously. And this program just goes past it, right? Because it isn't just about the degree at the end, it's about the experience and the connections you make on the way and what you're going to do with it afterwards to be a meaningful member of society. I mean, it's truly that I truly feel that it's that powerful of a program and that it was worth all the advocation and all the adventures that we went on getting it here and getting it up and running, all worth it.
Yeah, I love that. And it's nice not to feel alone, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like at the end of the day for all this graduate for like Dragonfly, that's what it's a lot of it is about. Like, oh, there's other people out there. Sometimes right in your workplace and you just never knew, right? Like you're also trying to work on this and that they're willing to help because they're passionate and they want to connect with like-minded people. I've been advising students who are in the AIP and the GFP, and it's like I meet all these people from different cities, Detroit, New York City, like San Diego, and like they're all trying to do these really cool things, like if they're in education or maybe they're like working with a local community board, like I just talked to this woman this morning is working in Brooklyn. She's like trying to figure out how to help people see that, you know, Brooklyn can also be for nature, right? Like that there is a place like we have to care about humans, of course, but like there is a place for greenery and for the environment and for nature within even within cities, right? So, I think it's super cool. I think Detroit Zoo AIP is really, really powerful program. So again, congratulations on that. Um, so we're kind of getting towards time, so I want to make sure I get into the PhD and life balance for Claire. So yeah, whatever you want to say about that.
So working on life balance. I hear it's something that other people do.
Yeah.
No, I decided to go back for my PhD and I found a program that matched a lot of my interests. So it was through Texas Tech University. It was all online, so it allowed me to continue working full time. And it's in curriculum instruction, but with a focus on global STEM literacy. So I'm like, this is perfect.
Nice.
I can get all these skills and tools that I need to better evaluate the work that we're doing in Peru, show the impact that it's having, talk about global conservation and the importance of it, right? So best laid plans. I started my PhD program in the fall of 2019. Both of my kids, one had just started preschool, one was in school full time, and then the pandemic hit.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, we were transitioning to all the new things, right? So, navigating a PhD program, navigating shifting all of our programming to online, navigating massive shifts at work. Um, my husband was deployed because he was in the National Guard, so he was deployed for COVID response multiple times. Um, just trying to get through the program. It was dark times. The seven of us who were in the cohort bonded together. We still all communicate regularly. If you want to talk about trauma bonding, that was it.
Hmm.
At one point, so we rolled into the whole January 6th thing that happened in the Capitol. My husband was deployed again. He spent like 2 months in the basement of the Congress building while I'm again
Wow.
navigating three courses for my PhD, the transition back to real school, like in-person school for my kids. Kevin, it was a lot. Um,
That is a lot.
It was a huge challenge. I also had to abandon my plan of doing my dissertation about the international conservation work because I couldn't travel down there. And I wasn't sure when I was going to be able to travel internationally again. And everything happens for a reason. And I shifted my dissertation work to look at the lack of diversity in the animal care field within AZA institutions. I hit the topic at a time when it was critically important to the field. Got a tremendous response, a tremendous amount of data.
Mhm.
Collected it, have shared it out at a couple conferences, wrote a paper on it. It was published. Again, making sure that everybody who wants access and what intentional and unintentional barriers we may have been putting in people's way. I mean, those barriers are in place for a variety of different groups, and
Yeah.
removing those barriers just benefits everybody.
Awesome. I agree completely. Is there anything, Claire, else you would like to share, I'm thinking about someone listening who, maybe they are, thinking about being a teacher. Maybe they're thinking about working at a zoo or a botanical garden, and they're trying to think like, you've made it and you've made a big difference and you're in an important position. What would you say to someone just kind of starting out and thinking about these things?
Gosh, I think one of the things that I can prove this with dissertation data. One of the most important things, regardless of what field you want to go into, is the network of people that you establish as you were starting to look into that field. Over and over again, the feedback that I got was the people that they knew, and not just mentors, because mentors I think are folks who help guide you along the way a little bit, provide some sort of insight, but like a true sponsorship from someone who's out there advocating for you, especially for fields who have limited opportunities or opportunities that don't open very often. That network is so critically important. So start connecting yourself through any means possible, to wherever you want to go. Find people, talk to people, volunteer if you can. Um, that's the way to break into different fields. And that's the way to make those really meaningful changes. And I know it's cliche, but truly the impact that one person can have when they're really determined. I've seen really determined people just make amazing things happen. And they just don't let those barriers stand in their way. The sense of determination that they have is just so admirable. And I'm just super appreciative that we have so many change makers out there in the world trying to make all those things happen. And so many of them are within this Project Dragonfly family. And I think that's what's kept me connected here too. It's just all the positive energy that goes around whatever's happening in the rest of the world, to come back to this core network of people who really want to see positive things in the future and are making it happen every day, little by little.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And thanks for all you're doing with the Detroit Zoo, with the AIP, Dragonfly, all your work internationally and your teams. So, like, yeah, just keep doing these great things and good luck with the 7 acres of amazingness.
Yeah, come up and pet a goat sometime soon.
Totally. Thanks again, Claire.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hi there, folks. Just one more thing before you head out. If you have a moment, follow, share this podcast. It really helps get the word out about Project Dragonfly and hopeful conservation. And I would love to hear in what ways you are finding this podcast useful, how you listen, what you would like to hear more of, less of, etc. Please feel free to send me any and all feedback, any ideas for guests to Kevin Madison at my email, which is mattiskc@miamioh.edu. That is spelled MATTESKC@miamioh.edu. Thanks again for listening and have a great day.